For far too long has there been an existing monopolizing force within the free market that has been dictating the prices, has been dictating how people, the choices of people within the free market. We think that we need to eliminate this force for a fairer and a justified free market, right? So what's our position with this debate and what are we going to do? We are going to restrict ownership of companies and individuals who would like to buy properties to a of individuals who want to buy properties, so they can only buy two properties, right? They are only limited to buying two properties. The only exception to which they can buy two properties is that if companies or if institutions are buying these properties in order to build more properties, right? They are buying the properties to expand the property within that area, right? This is called regional competitiveness, right? So let's say Shah Alam, the companies in Shah Alam are competing companies in another region like PJ, right? So this is regional competitiveness, and it's a regional competitiveness, and they have a different market, right? It doesn't affect much people. They are doing it to benefit people. They are doing it to expand the market, right? So our stance in doing so is this: we want to make sure there is a competitive atmosphere for as many individuals as we can provide, and secondly, we want to make sure there is a free and there is a fair market, fair pricing of these properties, right? In my speech, I will tell you why there is a problem with these monopolizing forces, why there isn't a competitive atmosphere, and I'll tell you why we need to fix this, and why this the only people that are harmed by this policy are the people that are going to buy this property. Before I go on my argumentation, anything else?
Yeah. So just want to ask, if these companies are buying up properties to expand their empire and they buy more properties locally, wouldn't that drive the prices up? If that's the case, why are you exempting them from your policy?
No, these companies are buying properties so they can build more properties, right? So when you build more properties, more individuals are going to buy your properties, right? These are the individuals that are going to buy the bulk of your properties, right? These companies are not necessarily going to sell these properties to individuals that are going to buy these houses, but to individuals that are going to buy these houses in bulks, right? These are middlemen who are going to buy these properties and sell them to individuals. Right? They're going to control that region. They're going to control the properties, the prices of the properties within that region, right? So let's talk about what happens when these monopolizing forces take control. So we want to foster a competitive atmosphere where there are different ownerships and there are different prices, right? So many individuals are owning many different properties. Many individuals are many properties, right? So this forces competitiveness because when there's different ownerships, there are different prices of that ownership, right? So when individuals set up different prices, this drives competitiveness for these individuals who buy these properties to lower their prices, right? To attract consumer interest. So that's why competitiveness exists in the first place, right? When there is more individuals who are controlling that certain property market. But the problem with this status quo is gentrification, right? So the individuals who are buying these properties are individuals who are rich, who are capable of buying these properties in bulk and reselling them back to society at a price that they want to, right? But the problem with this is that they buy it in bulk, so they control that market, right? They control a large amount of the property within that market. So they monopolize the market, right? They monopolize that certain region, and the people are affected within the region, right? So they are gentrifying. The gentrifying forces are stronger because these individuals have more opportunity to dictate the prices since they control that amount of property, right? So they control the price of that area. This does two things. This gives them the opportunity to increase the prices because there's not much competitiveness, and there's not much competitiveness because now the individuals who want to buy property, the consumers are limited of choice, right? There are not many individuals that can buy the property from in the first place. So there is a standard. There is only a standard. The individuals who buy the properties in bulk don't necessarily have to lower the prices because there is no competitiveness. There are not much. There are not many individuals who own. That's properties within that area. So you limit choice and you only increase the prices within this region. What does this necessarily do, and why do we need to fix this? When people are forced to, or when people's choices are limited and they have only a certain price or a certain market they can go to, and when they find that market is not suitable for them, when they find there are no other avenues that are offering cheaper properties, these individuals are more likely to move out, right? Move out of that area and move out of that region. This only is only a negative impact towards that region and the market within that region, right? Because nobody wants to buy the properties. Nobody wants to buy the properties because it's not suited their pricing, and there's no other individuals who are offering a lower price within the region. Within status quo, when there is even within status quo, there are policies where government protects competitiveness within the region, right? So we protect prices and we protect individuals who can monopolize the market. For example, there is a government role to curtail monopolizing power, right? So they restrict the amount of property. They restrict the amount of property that you can buy within the free market, right? So we restrict we restrict. There are certain government policies where we can restrict the monopolization of individuals buying a certain or monopolizing a certain power, because they realize that this affects this affects a large portion of society, right? Mainly people who are financially unstable, and they need the competitiveness, and they need more prices, right? More offering of prices. So we need to fix this because there's a government role to protect these individuals, right? To protect the competitiveness and the choices that the consumers have within status quo. For all those reasons, this doesn't do any good towards the consumers, and this doesn't do any good for the individuals that are buying these properties in bulk, because they are not going to gain any profits.
Okay, thank you, Prime Minister. We call upon the leader of opposition. Here.
Ladies and gentlemen, opening opposition believes, and we feel that it's regrettable, that we can't remove discrimination and gentrification in an absolute manner, ladies and gentlemen. That is why we will support policies that state has to fulfill the orders of building things like public housing for individuals, or granting things like rent subsidy as well as rent control to ensure that individuals within the lower income bracket can access property. What we will argue from opening opposition is that we will not take a position of punishing individuals who have the autonomy to buy up property, to create a market that benefits the individuals in the society. We don't think that opening government was able to fulfill the burden in which they create a market that is accessible to everyone. I'm going to be talking about two things. Number one, why on principle individuals have the right to own more than 2 properties, and number two, why this policy hurts the people that you want to help the most, especially individuals who want to engage in things like SMEs, ladies and gentlemen. But before that, 2 points of responses. Number one, they say that this debate is about fair market and fair pricing because there is an ability for a force to project a particular price that limits the ability for individuals to participate. Firstly, we will argue, let's look at the force that monopolizes the prices that exist within status quo. Oftentimes, we will argue from open opposition that it's about real estate agencies controlling the prices and dictating the prices, and not necessarily about the individuals who own those houses or those properties to begin with, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, we will argue at this particular juncture, if your problem is a problem of pricing, then we think that states can very well employ regulations to ensure that real estate developers as well as real estate agencies can limit the amount of prices that you charge for particular specific areas that you want to target for individuals within the lower income bracket. We don't think you should punish individuals who want to own property. Secondly, let's model match, because they say that there is a policy of middleman control that allows for some market force to be driven up to ensure that people can participate in this capitalistic society. Firstly, this is why Lucas's point of information was very important, because we think that at this particular juncture, if you allow for companies to still be buy properties and create properties to other individuals, this means that the sort of prices that you want to eliminate under that side of the house is still retained. Why? Because because your policy is still in place, right? Right now, you are still limiting access to other individuals to being able to own more than 2 properties, ladies and gentlemen. So, on a comparative, what is the incentive for these companies that you are talking about right now to lower their prices, especially when these companies can only capitalize on a profit for only 2 properties per client, ladies and gentlemen? We think it is problematic. At this point, because they can't meet the sort of outcome or like profit that they're anticipating at the point which they are creating more buildings, we think it is far less likely they will charge you at a lower price on comparative. We think they will charge you a lot worse. We think that at this point, developers take an incentive of how do I maximize my profit at the point in which the state is limiting the clientele in engaging in my market to begin with. And we think that that's problematic on a comparative. Opening government does not solve this. So firstly, why do we think on principle there is a right to own more than 1 property? We think that people own property for very legitimate reasons, and oftentimes we don't question these reasons, ladies and gentlemen, because we recognize that there's autonomy in the decisions that you make. This can be many different things. Things like wanting to invest in property to ensure that you can capitalize on the income like over the years. Or you can have big families, ladies and gentlemen, or having a stable rent income that is divided across properties, or even wanting to open up businesses because it is a legitimate position to take. Oftentimes, we don't impose judgment, especially since there is no actual harm to these individuals owning those properties to begin with. Oftentimes, we will argue that market restriction is a response to market failure, and we don't think that this is the case in this debate, ladies and gentlemen, because the standards in which we intervene and how we limit individual autonomy has to rely on objective standards in how we impact society in status quo. So it can be many different standards, i.e. the poor is hurt right now, or the goods are bad, or like there's a market that is like overwhelmingly in favor of the rich. But we think in this particular regard, here's where we draw the line, ladies and gentlemen. Especially for people who own more than 1 property, we have to acknowledge the fact that like a lot of times these are people of higher value or individuals within the upper middle class to the rich, ladies and gentlemen. So how do we make back that money that we allow for them to get access to begin with? Firstly, we already employ things like property tax to the many properties that they own in status quo. Things like income tax, because these are individuals who have a higher value and therefore pay a lot more and give back to the state. But thirdly, we also support policies that are already instituted in many states, in which if your dwelling is not occupied up to a particular time, or if you don't use your property, the tax rate for that specific property can go up because the state can capitalize on the fact that you are like not really using that. But we think that you already make money back from the individuals that you are punishing under status quo, ladies and gentlemen. We think the debate then has to be a comparative on the equality of opportunities versus the equality of the outcomes that you are achieving, ladies and gentlemen. More often than not, we think that at the point in which you force individuals to remove themselves from being able to access the right to more than 2 properties, it is far less likely that they will want to retain themselves within your country, because the incentive structures of individuals within this income bracket is oftentimes where can I get the most returns for the money that I invest in that state, ladies and gentlemen. And we think it is far more likely that the way in which the rich operates is that they will move out from your country and thereby eliminating the sort of revenues that you are hoping to achieve under that side of the house. We think that this can be pointed out to many different examples in which the rich operates. When they go to countries and shop in countries in which they can get tax returns, like when the Middle Easterns come to Malaysia or come to the UK, where because they see it being an incentive, attractive decision for them to pay. We think it is better, and on principle, we will allow for them to own these things. Yes.
If you're against being punitive on property owners, then why are you imposing rent control, which also limits their revenue?
Okay, because the debate is often about a balance to ensure that individuals can have autonomy in some degrees, whilst at the same time not being at the behest of individuals who can't access that property. Ladies and gentlemen, you are absolute in this debate. Secondly, how do we hurt the people that you want to help the most? Oftentimes, we will argue from opening opposition that property also includes the ability to own areas in which businesses can start building themselves up, especially small to medium enterprises. This can include many different things. Things like owning a shop lot for you to build up in different areas, or being able to convert properties to become businesses, like when you have a bungalow and you convert it into, like, I don't know, a restaurant or a shop, for example. Why this is important is because the ability for businesses to want to cultivate an area of interest, as well as cultivate interest in expanding to other areas, is important to ensure that they have some degree of stability in where they establish their domicile areas, ladies and gentlemen. It is important to note what this policy does. It is removes the ability for small to medium enterprises to be able to expand beyond the areas in which they own specific property, and limits the ability for them to engage in a larger customer base, especially when they want to expand. what that policy does, it is only allows for the companies that are supporting to act as a middleman to profit off other individuals' autonomy and to ensure that people are forced to engage in their policy as opposed to being able to determine where do I want to calculate my financial decisions as well as where do I want to push forward my businesses. I've never been proud of those.
Right, we thank the leader of opposition for the deputy prime minister.
Mr. Speaker, Ernest Hemingway once said that the first panacea for a mismanaged nation is the inflation of prices. The second is war. Both bring a temporary prosperity, both bring a permanent ruin. But both are the refuge of political and economic opportunists, which the same people that we are trying to stop in this situation from hiking up prices to only suit their classes. We think that that's extremely unfair. Now I'm going to push to an argument about how this reduces the economic mobility of the people states should be concerned about. But before that, I have a couple of responses. Now, Jay told us in her speech that the problem isn't with individuals, the problems are with real estate agencies that will hike up the price. So, we think there are already mechanisms in status quo that states already regulate the number of real estate agencies that are available within status quo. These are anti-monopoly policies altogether, right? To make sure that not one real estate agency controls. So there is a competitive atmosphere in that sense. That same parallel can be drawn, Mr. Speaker, when we live in individuals who are available in society. So people like Roman Abramovich who would like to invest in large numbers of properties in London. These people also highly contribute to the rising living costs within London and make the prices much heavier, right? So even if these real estate agencies don't have much limitations now, we are perfectly happy with increasing limitations if it really does affect individuals who are living within the state and are forced to move out or stay in poor conditions. So the next thing they told us is on our mechanism on companies buying properties, right? This could also lead to large amounts of high amounts of property prices, for example. So what's the response to this? So when we told you that we will allow companies to buy properties if they want to build on those properties, what we meant by that is if that property is not there to begin with, right? So if Satya wants to go to a random part of Shah Alam and build Satya Alam, then we're perfectly okay with it because at the same time they are in a competitive and regional competitive atmosphere against other housing developments and trying to fight for the best region for people to go there and they can only do that if they lower their costs as much as possible, right? But this doesn't happen when it's already properties that have been built within the city and they can buy and increase the prices exorbitant, right? We don't think that that is fair at all. So the next thing they told us is that, this is okay because the people who buy these properties give back more taxes to the state through income tax. So clearly they deserve more in society, right? So we don't think so, right? A lot of times corporations also give back a lot of money in terms of corporate tax by the virtue of them being larger, but we still impose monopoly controls on these individuals as well. So the fact that you're richer doesn't make you more valuable in society, Mr. Speaker. It shouldn't make you more valuable in society. We don't think that these individuals should have the right, especially if it comes at the cost of millions of people being forced out of cities like New Jersey because they can't afford the rent anymore because those individuals bought their property and are determining the rent to begin with. The next thing they told us is that businesses, can be cultivated within these areas, right? So we think that firstly, if SMEs really wanted to prop up, we don't think they immediately need more than 2 properties to establish an SME. SMEs usually start with 1 property to begin with, and 2 sounds a lot already. But at the same time, Mr. Speaker, these are individuals who often franchise out their businesses to other people owning it under other people's names, which is something we're okay with, right? Because this isn't too bad when it comes to these people owning property to sell goods and services that is already within a competitive market atmosphere. But if these are companies that are buying those properties to rent them out or sell them out to raise the property prices, then that's something that we are not okay with, right? So this is something that we can treat within our mechanisms. Yes.
Your problem is big. So there's unfair pricing that is problematic in the market. But you also just conceded that regulations can be employed on agencies that determine the prices to begin with. So why are you punishing other individuals where regulation already exists?
So like it's particularly hard to impose things like if you are conceding that you're okay with rent control, then you're sort of conceding that you're also okay with this policy, right? It's also difficult when individuals with large capacities are able to buy up properties because of that, because they have the money to purchase it at the high values. But it's perfectly okay for them to just give it out at the same rent prices, right? They'll be perfectly fine with it. But that's not enough, Mr. Speaker. We need individuals who cannot afford their property or are just able to afford their property, and those people need the rent control, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that they don't have hyped up prices. So what I mean by this is that in response to rent control and things like that, what usually happens is that people with lots of money can buy up those properties anyways and still rent them out with the price of rent control. They can still make off, break even on their profit maybe, but that isn't enough, Mr. Speaker. We don't think that is fair to begin with. So now I'm going to talk to you. So my argument is on how this reduces the economic mobility of the poor, right? So what usually happens to individuals within these gentrifying markets is that either A, they are forced out of the area where most economic activity is happening, into places like the suburbs, into places like outer cities, for example, to find jobs there, to find properties there, and maybe if they can travel an hour, 2 hours a day to get to the city in order to find jobs. Or they are forced to stay within the city, and they often are trapped within the same job level because they spend so much on property, they don't have enough money to invest onto self-development or learning new courses or spending time to get to work early and being more productive in nature, Mr. Speaker, because these are things that are limited by the fact that you have such a high cost of living. And if these individuals can't access a competitive market and with every right that they have to do so, then that's how you see things like ghettos forming within cities, because individuals don't have the access to the same market that other richer individuals do. We think this is how cities often become richer and richer and are catered to the middle class and the upper middle class, and poor people are slowly phased out of the city, Mr. Speaker, where these are individuals who need the most access to this competitive markets. So if basically the money goes to property, then there's no money for self-development and they are stuck within the same job level. But what also happens, Mr. Speaker, and what we do prevent with this policy is foreign individuals buying up property, because that's something that markets allow, right? Foreign individuals coming in the bulk and coming in and buying up your property because they have the capital to do so, and because they find that your city is up and coming, and you have no control over them, Mr. Speaker, because companies set up investor state dispute resolutions, and states set that up, and then it makes it harder for you to control individuals who are foreign investors to begin with, and states like these people. We think this is extremely troubling because it makes it harder for individuals to fight against foreign individuals who are buying up their properties and hiking up their prices. We think that's extremely, extremely unfair. We strongly believe that every social injustice is not only cruel, but an economic waste. And the economic waste in this situation, Mr. Speaker, are individuals who are the poor sector of society, who can also be productive in these competitive markets. For all those reasons, we're very, very proud to oppose.
Okay, we thank the Deputy Prime Minister. We call upon the Leader of Opposition.
Two extensions to my speech. Number one, how do we make more ringgit for the rakyat from these fat cats? And number two, how do we prevent the oligarchy from being entrenched? The first extension, how we make more money for the people. And Jay's extension was this, and they under-addressed it. He said rich people typically own more property, and now companies own multiple properties. They pay taxes, they pay corporate taxes, income taxes, property taxes. The consequence of doing this and limiting the growth of your country is that they'll run away somewhere like, I don't know, Hong Kong or Singapore, where laws don't exist like that. Because the thing is this, being rich to an economy does make you more valuable because of the taxes you pay. The comparative that the OGs deal with is not that they will pay less taxes, it's that they will leave the country altogether. You lose all the corporate taxes, property taxes, and income taxes that they would otherwise have paid. These taxes go to things like subsidies for SMEs. They go to things like Bantuan Rakyat Wan Malaysia to help the poor. They go to things like providing jobs because the company stays here, it employs locals. And these are all the things that OG will lose on their side. We don't think they actually dealt with the magnitude of that point. What they said there is that the poor people will be trapped in provinces because of high living costs and therefore we need to help the people. They never actually showed how their policy links concretely to improving the lot of poorer people. But we will give you reasons as to why it doesn't. Number one, if you were any developer like YTL Group in Malaysia, and you were only limited to 2 properties that you could own and develop the resorts or shopping malls, you would rather build them in KL Central because that's where the purchasing power is highest. You wouldn't go to like Shah Alam or Brickfield to build them. So if this is the point, you are creating more gentrification because all the biggest developers are going to develop in areas that they don't need it to make high profit. And these conglomerates will not flash out and to create growth regions in other states or other domiciles which badly need it. This is where you literally create ghettos in the outskirts and concentrate the development in the city center, therefore not helping the rakyat one bit. Second extension, that will how we prevent the entrenchment of oligarchy. And over here, we need to talk about the problem that Kelvin identified. But sure first.
Sir, if you do not limit them to 2 properties, but they're still going to buy up those properties and hike up the prices anyway, so at least we mitigate the problem a bit.
But on our side, if you buy up more properties and develop them, you have to pay taxes on not just the property itself, which goes back to helping people, but everything you have to do with the property, like the business activity. Like people don't just buy buildings and let them sit idle, they turn it into consumer malls, shopping malls, like manufacturing hubs. These are all things that people do with property, which are important activities for our economy. So, second contention on how we prevent the entrenchment of oligarchy, and over here we get a strange tension between both Sean and Kelvin. They talk about the monopolizing force that decides prices, but in the same breath they also tell us that regulations exist to prevent these things from getting too serious. So if you have controls like Kelvin says in his first minute, then where's this monopolizing force we talk about? So clearly the status quo already has means to deal with it. But let's take the argument at the best case. Their argument is this: we will accept these companies if they expand further and build more Setia Alam properties, therefore increasing the supply, and then sell them off. This is the best argument that OG can give us. Here are 3 more reasons why that falls. Number 1, large corporations like YTL and CDL in Singapore only build more developments when they can make enough profit of their existing developments, and you only have 2 of those, which means that you can't really build more supply easily, so therefore your increased supply argument doesn't really work. The second reason I give you is this: if the limit of ownership, even among buyers, is 2 properties per company or individual, then the existing developers wouldn't sell off their properties at lower prices. They wouldn't price discriminate and serve the bottom of the pyramid market. There'll be even more gentrification, and the barrier to enter the property market is a lot higher. But furthermore, they set the burden up for themselves, that we want these people to build more properties to become globally and regionally competitive. If you had only owned 2 properties in your home domicile, how are you ever going to be regionally competitive? Because these large groups and developers like CDO and Hong Kong have a lot of properties, and what they often do is that they develop these in large numbers so that they're able to get the portfolio of investments and the various industries such that they can get track records in other countries to build their properties. No, this doesn't work. So we think that you don't want to force these companies to start serving the high cost market to maximize the profit per square foot area, so they build expensive private hospitals versus neighborhood malls. So you have changed the incentive of the developers to cater to the very people who don't need it away from people who do need it, and that is a serious problem. But let me resurrect Jay's extension, which I don't think they really dealt with. How this debate isn't just about the larger fat cats, it's also about the developers and the SMEs at the bottom level who we want to uplift. Because with your policy, this entrenches the power of building new properties and entering the market into those with already existing business verticals or those who are large to begin with. It is now very hard for smaller developers in the provinces, very hard for the economy to build and enter the property space because they're limited by the properties they can own. This means that likely your policy is going to benefit existing rich conglomerates or richer individuals with existing assets to defray the cost of building new properties, not SMEs, not boutique or hotel owners or provincial developers. Yes, ma'am.
What you're saying here is that now rich individuals are going to make sure that they build properties out of those blocks. But the thing is, they're not going to do this because they're just going to spend it on making sure that they lavish their wealth.
If they lavish their wealth, we will tax them at a progressively higher rate for all the wealth they lavish. The state already has means to extract value from fat cats, and we are very happy to let them have their properties if they give us our taxes, rather than have them run away, which is not a good idea. So our solution that Jay Burry talked about is really a regulation to rent subsidies for the poor. These are sufficient to balance the imperatives of helping the rakyat with that of keeping business in our country. So the arguments that we get from Kelvin's speech are the following. Number one, he says SMEs only really need 2 properties to scale. No, they need a lot more than that for regional competitiveness. And if they are to talk about franchising, the franchising business model typically only brings about a 5 to 7% margin at best because the bulk of the costs are built with the franchisee. So franchising is known to be a very poor means of building your revenue stream in the long run. But the last argument he gets, and this is something that resonates with me, that their policy will stop foreign buyers from coming in. Honestly, in Malaysia, they've done a pretty good job imposing something called a local content requirement. Therefore, every foreign buyer who comes in, they can only own maximum 49% of the enterprise in most developments, which is to say 51% of the development in Malaysia goes towards the booming economy. We think it's better to have 51% share for the Bhumis and the Rakyat rather than 0% where they can't come in the first place. We also further think that poorer countries wouldn't mind foreign investors coming in with expensive US dollar denominated investments because that is what gets your economy the way it is for development. This openness towards development, this openness towards foreigners, and this understanding that you do not need to kill the baby with the bathwater are reasons why we think our policy is the better way out of poverty and the better way forward for the country. I've never been prouder of 2 votes.
Thank you, the Deputy Leader of That concludes the opening half. We come back up for the other area.
One extension to today's debate, I'll talk about when should the government step in, especially in a capitalist society, especially when third party harm is there, which is totally doesn't want to be engaged from the side opening up. First come first serve the top rebuttals. Side opening oppositions came and said that they do not want to stop the autonomy but of the party. Instead, they think that the state should have been giving out grants, should be granting subsidies to the individuals to help lift all these people from the lower society. But first thing first, this opening opposition failed to consider the fact that there are limits to subsidies that the government will be able to give up, especially when Lucas already considered the fact that the cost of living is getting higher day by day. If we were to allow or give chance to the lower hierarchy of people to the capability of them to buy property, we argue that the numbers of subsidies giving out can be much more reduced, and also at the same time we will be able to improve the income of the lower society. Moreover, they argued on the principal justification of the right to own more than one property, right? Simply because these people have the right to body autonomy, and because they are a big family, and because they deserve the right to open up business. But we tell that is a very selfish right. These rights should not be mutually exclusive to the rich, but it should be extended to the people of the lower society, which side government will be fighting for. And this can only be done under our paradigm. Yes.
So as a corporation, when you have 2 properties to maximize profit, wouldn't it be more likely that you will increase the price to ensure that you can have a higher outcome?
Well, we tell that when we limit the number of property that they have, right, it will allow all these individuals to strategize their business properly, which will allow them to have the maximum income, right? Now, let's move on to my first point: when should the government step in? We argue that yes, we consider the fact that in a capitalist society, the people on the ground should be given the chance to maximize their wealth without the restriction of the government. However, this restriction should be there when third party harm is there. First thing first, in terms of the people at the lowest hierarchy of the society, when the demand of the property is high, the prices will rise, which we understand the theory of the supply and demand. In this kind of circumstances, only the rich will ever be able to buy those houses, to buy those property, and the low hierarchy will never be able to own a property. And this low hierarchy of people are unlikely for their wealth to increase as speedy as the higher form of the hierarchy. No, because no matter how hard they work, the prices of the property will forever be very much ahead of them. And we know that the monopolization of the rich, we argue in terms of this that we want equality. If the rich were to be given the right to buy property, the poor should also be given the chance to do so. Because we want to uplift the social mobility of the lower income and the middle class people. We want them to buy property because we argue that property is the best way of form of investment. And we consider the fact that lands are limited. And over the years, when lands are going to be reduced, the prices will be hiking. And if there's the prices will be hiking. And if we were to allow this lower society the chances to buy, it will benefit the next generation, which will directly uplift the social mobility of their generation. Moreover, the third party harm also comes even if in the situation where we do not want to argue in terms of social mobility, where we want to argue the current situation that if property prices are high, right, even if there are low cost houses available, these low cost houses prices will also be rising. Even if when these low cost houses were to be sold to earn a certain profit, but these low cost houses will never be unlikely to be sold, because if it were to be sold, these people will not be able to have a roof over their top, and the price of every other, because the price of every other houses are rising, as well as which will render them incapable of owning another new home, which they will never be able to go out of the society. Moreover, we tell you that we want to talk about the purpose of this rich individual buying an extreme number of property. They only engage in one situation, that these individuals are going to build more property and grow their businesses to benefit the rest of the society. And they talk about simply because these people are paying tax to the government, therefore they deserve to do so. But we tell that this will only be the best case scenario where the businesses are being built. We tell you that we should draw a distinction between a rich individual and corporation. Corporations, we know that they will definitely be building more businesses, right? But we also have engaged the fact that rich individuals buy property also because first, they want to show their wealth. Secondly, in form of investment, where they will rent out those houses and sell those houses out in a higher price. At least unlikely to assume that they will be a philanthropist and sell it in a cheaper price, right? So they already consider the fact that real estate agents are the ones who control the price of the houses. But we tell you that rich people has a very major influence over the prices of the houses. Even if, I would say, this rich individual were really to want to build businesses to benefit the society, but we think that we allow them to strategize their business in the best way. And that in these kind of circumstances, our paradigm will benefit the economy of the country. All right, one yes.
If gentrification were to happen, isn't it beneficial for them then to for cities then or economies to branch out and make smaller economies within small cities?
When you were to place a limit there on that, we think that we have to balance out between the poor and the rich, right? Under your paradigm, it's only the rich will definitely be able to benefit because they will be building out more. But we tell that in our terms, the rich will be able to strategize their businesses. In terms of the poor, they will also be able to begin their SME, it's more likely for them to begin their businesses because of the lower prices of the property. In terms of the economy of the country, we argue that when people are rich, they tend to go to the extreme that they think that it's because my attitude of being daring and to buy properties in the past, to build businesses, therefore I can be that rich, right? And we tell that this is the circumstances that the government should step in, where when people tend to go to the extreme, we prevent them from going to the extreme to the extent where there might be bankruptcy cost, because when their focus is only towards this new property, right? They will be able to strategize the property instead when if the attention will going to be diverted, then instead the attention will going to be diverted, the economy of the country will be affected, because we do not want the situation where people just go irrational and buy. Under our paradigm, the network of wealth should be circulated, and we want to allow the distribution of property among people. With that, I'm proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Member of Government, followed by the Member of Office.
Ladies and gentlemen, the stance coming from side closing opposition is simple. We believe in the full utilization of resources because we think that it is in the state's interest to use up all their properties and unused and abandoned land for a greater good. But before I move on to my substantive, firstly, the role of state in maximizing the utilization of resources and the benefit of of it, and also the how you create more economic opportunity. I will move on to my substantives. In responding to site closing government, basically what they wanted to fight for was similar as to opening government, because they told us that government needs to step in when when it reaches an extreme, when there's basically a competitive market. We believe that like how opening I've told you, that government has the economy to impose certain regulation and has limits for people that have access to these kind of things. But we believe developers buy land then to create more properties so that people can access to these lands. Therefore, there's a myriad form of development. We can see low cost properties are being developed, and also properties that are accessible to middle income people. So we don't think it is there suddenly be a gentrification. But even if they want to fight for gentrification, where people will suddenly move out from that area, this is the contention coming from side opening government. We think that it is a good thing, because now when people branch out to make smaller cities, for instance, back then when people can't sustain the rising cost of living in Kuala Lumpur, they need to branch out to smaller cities like Shah Alam, for instance. Now Shah Alam becomes one of the flourishing cities, or a lot of cities and also companies branch out to those areas, and we think these things are good, ladies and gentlemen, to make to progress the country, to progress the economy of country. That is why my POI is important for them to answer. So first, how is closing government? What is the extension for closing government? We think firstly on the role of state in maximizing the utilization of resources, and why this is extremely important. The nuance coming from side closing government is that we tell you the reason why developers buy lands is to maximize the usage of it, meaning that they need to use that whether or not they will use that at the end of the day or not, as opposed to vast number of properties under your side of the house is being neglected. Because even if you want to tell us that suddenly the prices will reduce, we believe that they have invested a lot of money into developing these lands and also making up these houses. That doesn't mean that the cost of the house will suddenly be brought down, because at the end of the day, there's an agency who controls the prices of these companies. We recognize companies who buy this has the capacity to develop these lands and want to develop these lands. These individuals still pay things such as rent, interest, and also charges on sustaining the kind of properties that they do have. So we think that these kind of things are justified. So the property that we're telling you under our side of the house, the resources that we tell you under our side of the house, that are one that we sustain and we use up to the fullest. But under your side of the house, state then will lose out, because all the properties that you want to protect will not be used up, ladies and gentlemen. That doesn't mean suddenly the poor have access to these kind of lands, because the cost of making these properties or developing things such as shop houses or small shop houses is extremely expensive. It doesn't mean people suddenly have the ability to access and buy these properties. Therefore, the opportunity cost that we are taking under our side of the house, that we get the full utilization of resources. But even if people will lose out under our side of the house, we think that our worst case scenario is still better under our side of the house, because these individuals can move out to small cities and make up and branch out a more flourishing economy in that very small cities. Under our side of the house, we expand the economy of the country when you branch out to smaller cities, when companies step in to these small cities and make businesses, right? So our worst case scenario is still better under their best case scenario, where poor people still can't access to this property that they really wanted to talk about, because that doesn't guarantee that they can still buy or still pay the huge amount of cost that these developers impose prices on, and we believe that it is still expensive. So on the balance of probability, we think our side of the house is even better under their house.
So this is why our mechanism says we are okay with companies wanting to develop land, especially in those outer cities that you talk about, because most of the land in cities, main cities, are already taken up, as opposed to your policy where the poor are forced out into the smaller cities and are forced to develop a new economy.
Look, that's a zero-sum game, but okay, if you want to develop lands in smaller cities or bigger cities, that means that the poor, like developers, has the best interest to cater to the people in that very area. Because if you don't make things such as like low cost properties to individuals in that very area, it means that no one will buy up the lands and also houses in that very area. We think those kind of sustenance is then in the best interest of that developer in itself. We don't think they want to waste their money. So secondly, what is then the benefit to the state and how it will create more economic opportunity upon the rise of small cities? Because under our side of the house, it means that more developers will create more housing areas and also property that people can access, right? But under our side of the house, we regret that. Sure, some people might lose out, but under their side of the house, they told us how it will reduce economic mobility for the poor. We don't think so, because under our side of the house, we then create more economic opportunity upon the rise of smaller cities. Even though it is small in German, at least under our side of the house, the poor can still access to areas that they can still access with their own capacity and monetary capacity, even if there's a justification that they really want to talk about. So therefore, under our side of the house, companies will branch out to smaller cities to people who can afford their land and also their products in German. So under our side of the house, we think that the comparative is even better, because now even the poor can access properties that they really want to fight for. But we don't restrict the ability for people to own these properties, because they still have to sustain the things such as rent and also sustenance of that property. With that, we close.
I thank the member of opposition, and to close the government bench, the Southway.
Mr. Speaker, we think that there's a big problem within the houses today where they cannot differentiate between corporations and individuals who are buying the property in this case, right? We think that site closing government has already extensively explained to you how rich individuals are people who want to buy land for their own benefit. Corporations want to basically develop the land and eventually bring out more businesses so that people can be able to grow in that sense. But under these circumstances, rich individuals are people who want to be able to leverage their wealth, enabling, in this case, for middle class people and the poor individuals to be able to buy properties for their advantage in this case. So this is a misconception that site closing here has to deal with, that they need to take down, right? And we were talking about a few other things that did not really fit in this debate, and I'll tell you later on in my questions. On firstly, who allows for social mobility, and secondly, who better protects the free market and the right of individuals to ownership, right? So first things first. They talked about, look, there's already limited access. No, they talk about there's already limited access to property and land. The problem to this is we are not restricting companies from being able to grow businesses. We are restricting individuals who are now taking land to their advantage and not using them to their full potential, especially rich individuals who have wealth to spare. But these people have money to buy over houses or property and lots and rent them out to people. The rent that they told us, look, we can have tax regulation in these circumstances. But the problem with the tax regulations is it's not enough, because in these cases, individuals who are renting out the land from these rich individuals are significantly not making enough to make sure that they move out from the cycle from owning other people's things. In this case, they're still in between, still having to heavily depend on trying to pay rent monthly, and having also dependently trying to move out of the system that they want to be in, right? So we think that this is the case that they have to deal with. And essentially, right, we are already socially engineering rich individuals from heavily monopolizing smaller individuals from to be able to use property to their full benefit. They talked about, look, how these individuals will eventually make businesses that will make these people be able to potentially live, right? And then they said we can heavily tax them if that's your problem. But the problem is, if you heavily tax these rich individuals, these people are going to take it out on the rent of the poorer middle class individuals. And when the poorer middle class individuals can barely be able to pay the rent that these rich individuals are paying, we think that's a huge problem then for these poorer people and middle class people to be able to move up the social ladder. And we think that's a huge problem when these rich individuals are able to monopolize the entire sections and do this to everyone under their crown. Under their society, in their paradigm, everyone would then be not only just be scarcely be able to rise up the social ladder, but it'd be very hard for people to be able to raise their profits or significantly, right? We're saying that this is why taxing is not enough, right? We're telling you rent tax and all these things is not enough. That if you want to tax businesses, we are saying, okay, it's fine. But now when you're taxing individuals when they buy property lots, not for the benefit of anyone else but themselves, we think that's the problem when they take it out on the poorer individuals, because these rich individuals are also very profit-minded when they want to earn the best profit. Even though these companies that they own are able to buy properties of their own to develop, they want more money, their side income, and this is how they take it out on the middle class individuals, right? We know that.
Does the state have an unavoidable responsibility to provide low-cost housing for the individuals you speak of?
Low-cost housing in properties do exist. The problem in this debate is that when the low-cost housing, and then when these individuals are unable to make sure they use the full potential of this low-cost housing, eventually makes the state lose out, because this state has constantly provided for poorer individuals, middle-class individuals who are inefficiently moving up the social ladder under their paradigm. They have to deal with this significantly, right? No, thank you. Secondly, look, they mentioned about how eventually that these people basically have the idea that if you restrict their movement, right, eventually they will just move out. And or in this best case scenario, if let's say you don't let these richer individuals buy the land, the smaller people now will just be able to, if the rich individuals buy the land, then smaller individuals will then move out and make smaller economies. I think there's a really weird presumption that you're allowing for smaller economies to be formed, because then these poorer people will have to re-establish everything that they have built in the city to make their lives better in a smaller economy. We think that the integration of these poor people and middle class people to be integrated into city urban areas, right, is essential for social mobility. What they're saying is that now we want slower growth, while we, on the other hand, are allowing for a faster growth rate for these middle class income people and poorer people to be able to rise up the social ladder, right? When they're given the opportunity to buy properties, when they're given the opportunity to make sure that eventually at the end of the day be able to make properties into their own private businesses that they can build upon and be able to integrate themselves into the urban cities that at the end of the day they want to make something out of. I'm going to tell you why they're going to do this, right? Because eventually what they're going to do, no, thank you. Eventually what they say that is that, look, these people are eventually going to be people who can, let's say, integrate into society. But the problem now becomes when you're not allowing for the limitation of these rich individuals to buy over land, right? Meaning now these individuals can buy lands as much as they please. When the demand increases, Jeannie told you this specifically, when the demand increases, your supply is somehow lower in housing, in the property estate, because not every time is there a new property that will pop up suddenly that will be allowing people to buy. We think that when the supply is lower, the prices hike up faster each time every rich individual buys a land just because they want to be able to buy a land. And if at the end of the day, the increase of prices for housing estates, for property lands will be higher for the people at the ground, middle class and the poor to be able to afford, right? We think that's a huge disadvantage for them. In our paradigm, at least it is better when you restrict these individuals, the increase of property prices does not increase just as fast as when they buy those lands at the end of the day. This comes back to allowing the middle class to eventually at least have the chance and the proper social mobility that they can gain to. So how do we then still protect the free market? We basically protect the free market that we do not interfere with the interference of the businesses, and we still provide social mobility under our stance. With that, I'm very proud to propose.
We thank the government and the bench debate closed off. Guy debate was on the opposition debate.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, it is a truth universally acknowledged that a man cannot succeed without the rights granted by him by virtue of him being human. So our stand today is simple. We believe in the right to property and full utilization of resources because it is in the interest of the state to provide the people that right. So, firstly, I will rebut on the government side, the rebuttals. So, firstly, they talk a lot about monopolization of the rich. Actually, limiting ownership to two properties won't eradicate poverty, Mr. Speaker, because limiting this ownership will only restrict accessibility to these people, because you claim to support. So, because limitation of ownership to two properties per individuals will only perpetuate this exclusivity of properties to rich people. But on the comparative, Mr. Speaker, under our side, we provide better accessibility because by developers to develop these lands on their side that is unused to cater for the people that can afford under their side. Secondly, they talk about the government needing to step in. Actually, under our side, government had autonomy to impose regulation because people have access. So there are myriad forms of development. So there's accessibility to this middle class and working class people. Thirdly, this land would use. Thirdly, they talk a lot about land being used, land not being used to their full potential. But this is not true because on our side, land are being used for their potential because it is used on our side because these people will need to pay the rent. They will need to pay the interest by buying these lands, and this is for the sustenance of this land. So it's weird because their WIP did not engage at all to my members' extension because fourthly, they want to talk about rich conglomerates, right? So, but obviously, the rich conglomerates have interest in these lands, and they will use this land to develop so that corporation, they can use this land to provide accessibility to the people who would use this land and live in a house in it. So, and also, corporations are regarded as person under the law, Mr. Speaker. And fifthly, the rent is not enough, and the poor will lose out. Our response to that is that, but at least on the comparative, Mr. Speaker, there's benefit on our side when there's a flow of money to the state. So when there's restrict to two properties, that doesn't mean other people get access to these properties like poor people. So even for so at least on our side, we provide this accessibility to the people. And lastly, integration. We didn't think this is relevant because this extension came from their WIP. So we tell you that integration can happen when the state regulate the rent. Before I move on to the issues, yes.
Do you concede the fact that people living in rural areas because they prefer a lower cost of living? Instead, if you were to allow the rich to develop these rural areas and increase the cost of living, at the same time, the income of the middle and lower class people are not increasing, and you are depriving these people from growing their wealth.
Actually, under their service, they're the ones who are depriving these poor people of accessibility to lands and houses because they're the ones who will increase the prices of these houses because two properties per individual speaker will make this land exclusive, and people who want to buy the land, so they will increase the prices. No, thank you. So the first issue in this debate is that competitiveness. There is no, firstly we need to see this realistically because in our world, in a capitalistic world, there is no such thing as bad competitions because under our side, all developers can compete to build more houses by utilizing these lands. All developers can build more houses, low-cost houses, to cater to these poor people that they neglect to put under their policy, Mr. Speaker. So they will develop more masses so that market will expand accessibility to people who cannot afford them in the first place. Secondly, prices, Mr. Speaker. Real prices in the market actually is controlled by real estate agencies. They're the ones who control these prices, not the individuals owning these properties, Mr. Speaker. So, so the state, in addition, the state can impose, even if the prices were to go up, if there's a limit of this, if there isn't a limit or there is a limit, state can impose price regulation for people to own two properties. So even if people can own two properties, prices of property won't go down. So under their side, people prices of properties would can still go up. So people can't really have access to this kind of properties. Thirdly, gentrification. Other people moving out is good actually, Mr. Speaker, because it will open up more land for other people to utilize it for the benefit of these people. So people will use this land to bring back good to these people, Mr. Speaker. So under their side, on the cooperatives, they are actually limiting access to the people who want to use this land. So there's people, so these people will buy this land to invest and develop in the future for these people to go back and buy this at the lower prices, Mr. Speaker. So their side doesn't show how this limitation of two properties would benefit these poor people, Mr. Speaker. So in addition, also, rich people pay taxes. So by limiting this properties to limiting ownership to two properties, rich people who owns many properties actually pay a lot of tax, a lot of rent, and a lot of mortgages and interests to the state. So in limiting this, they actually limit the kind of contribution from the rich people to bring back to the society in a way that they're paying the tax is for the benefit of the society, in which they contribute, and there's a distribution, more equal distribution of wealth to these people. Because of all these issues, Mr. Speaker, I think our side of opposition have won the debate. Thank you so much.
Thank all for teams for a good debate. The announcement will be done in the hall. Thank you.